Where to Hunt podcast. It's okay.
Hi, I'm Dan Small, host of Outdoor Wisconsin, and I listen to Where to Hunt.
Nah, it's okay.
I'm Kurt Geyer with Working Class Bow Hunter. I listen to Where to Hunt podcast, and it's decent.
It's all right.
Hey, this is Bud Fisher with Catching Deers, and I think the Where to Hunt podcast is all right.
Hey, Greg, what's up?
You know, just another week of people letting us come on Facebook and all the rest of the social media platforms that we're not on.
Just ruining their
airspace.
earwaves. Yeah. Hey, everybody. Well, welcome to the Where to Hunt podcast. My name's Eric. That's Greg. And today is June 16th, 2020. This is episode 136, I think. And this is the podcast that connects public land hunting enthusiasts, a.k.a. the okayest podcast in the Midwest. Cool.
That was cute.
Got that out of the way. Slate it. Freaking A. How you been, man? What's going on in your world?
Not a whole lot. Family in town from out of state. So, you know, that going for us, which is nice.
That is nice.
What about you?
Sadly, my wife's grandmother had passed away this week. So I spent some time over the weekend up north where she's from in the UP, and we'll be going back up at the end of this week for the service. So, you know, not to bring the mood down, but
no, that's
87 full life,
thing,
9
man.
kids, lots of grandchildren, lots of great grandbabies. So, I mean, it's more of a celebration of her life. So it's good. Other than that, though, I feel like I've just been busy. I'm on pretty tight right now. This scotch is good.
I think you need another glass.
And I haven't eaten much. It's going to get weird. So let's get into our sponsors call outs real quick before it gets too weird. You know, we'll play the Backwoods Grind commercial. Hopefully, I want some feedback on it. Like, hey, everybody, let me know what you guys think of that. We think it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But gumleafusa.com, please go to their website and you will be smitten by their awesome rotating video. I won't spend an hour talking about it, but look, these are handmade from scratch over in England. And look, they're 85% natural rubber. That's very different than what you see in the big box stores. They have a Vibram sole. Look, a lot of guys in the deer hunting crowd are wearing these things for a reason. And we're happy to rock them, at least for most of the year, except for when it gets really cold out. And then we kind of put them away and bust something else out. So, you know, if you want to save some money on their boots, use code W2H2020 for 10% off. And I don't know. Let me know. If you have any questions, we'd be happy to put you in touch with their customer service. And, you know, they're really, they like to talk to their clients a lot, or their customers. So, and then also the okayest hunter. This is the okayest hunting podcast studio. I forgot to call it out early on.
I can't believe you didn't pick that up.
Coming
right
at you
away.
from the okayest hunter podcast studio.
Boy,
If you want to save,
we got to build that canned into this somehow.
yeah, I forget. Yeah, I got to do something weird there. But look, hey, go to okayesthunter.com. These guys give back to conservation through 2% for conservation. It's a group that you might have heard of. They validate and verify that the revenue is indeed going back to conservation. And then 1% of their time is part of that. So the other, what was I going to say there? Oh yeah, if you want a discount on their stuff, W2H podcast for 10% off.
10%.
Hey, I haven't heard anybody that no code redemptions yet. Like, I get feedback from our sponsors that one hasn't kicked yet. So if you want some okayest gear, and I'm wearing a shirt right now, it's pretty great. It's okay. I mean, you know, it's okay. VectorCustomShop.com. Greg,
Yeah.
you're my guy for this one.
VectorCustomShop.com. Well, what can I say about them? If you're looking for a custom-built arrow to your specs, go check out VectorCustomShop.com. Heavy
Do you want the
duty.
code?
No, I got the
Oh,
code.
okay.
I'll get the code.
All right. Sorry.
Man, you jacked me up.
That's what I do.
You're good at derailing the train.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, like I was saying, put this train back on the track here. You pour yourself another thing of scotch there, okay? So, if you're looking for an arrow, custom built to your specs, heavy carbon, extremely well built, they're rocking the Ethics insert-outsert system up front. They'll weight it pretty much to your specifications, anywhere from 45 to 175 grains up front. Multitude of different spines. I'm shooting a 300 spine right now. I might try out a 250. But they're quality built.
Smaller
and
diameter,
they are a
thicker
micro,
walls.
Yeah, micro diameter. Man, you're just...
Sorry.
Do you want to do it?
I told you, I'm just having a problem today.
I would say. Constantly interrupting. So, if you're interested in all that, so we quit tripping on ourselves here, go check out vectorcustomshop.com. And if you want to order, they have been experiencing
Supply chain issues with COVID. Yep.
Yeah. So, actually, we just got an email today about them. Next round opens June 27th because they're selling in rounds with the COVID thing. If you want to get your order in, I would say June 27th, hop on to vectorcustomshop.com. Go put your
Their
order
shit's
in.
flying off the shelves.
Yeah, it's moving quick. Just simmer. I got this. If you decide to order a set, you can choose from a sample, like a test pack of 2. You can go with a half dozen or a dozen. And whatever you decide to order, when you click through to order all this stuff, you can enter code WHERE, the word WHERE, to hunt, and that'll give you 10% off. All right, now I'm done.
I'm sorry.
No,
He's
you're
got a
not.
fucking pistol with me. Hey, what's up? Hey, Farv, what's that place you like to eat
Farva,
with all the medallions?
with all the goofy shit on the wall.
Yeah.
Shenanigans?
Shenanigans? You talking about shenanigans? Camera just turned off.
Who's our guest? He's got to be either laughing or shaking his head or wondering why he's even on the show by now.
We got with us on the line Alex Ramondo with Romano Outdoors. What up, Alex? Hopefully you endured that shit show that we just did.
Yeah, that was a good intro.
Yeah, the king of interruption over here.
Gotta be good at something.
Well, we all got to be good at something. What are you good at, Alex?
Oh, man. Hunting and fishing, I guess you'd say.
Sure.
That's perfect. That's what we're going to talk about today.
Awesome.
Some
Yeah,
hunting.
man. There we go.
That's beautiful. So why don't you start by just sharing with the audience, who you are, where you're from, what do you hunt, public, private, what do you like to chase, and we'll get into our topic from there.
I'm 27 from Newtown Square, PA. Was raised my whole life here. And like chasing whitetails, it's basically the only thing we have down my way. Upstate PA's got turkeys and everything. But down here, hunting on private land holds some of the biggest deer. So, mostly private for me. Public land, really haven't done too much of that. It's definitely on my bucket list this year because we got a nice giant public land park across from us that a lot of hunters seem like they have a lot of good success in. So definitely eyed up some trees this year where I want to get in there this year.
Are you what kind of guy are you? A hanging stand guy, a climber, a ladder?
I like hang-ons the most. Definitely hang-ons. Had a couple ladder stands this year up at the owner of Romano Outdoors, the Millenniums, and those are some of the heaviest stands I've ever put up. But my God, are they comfortable?
It's like a Cadillac, huh? That's what I got.
Oh yeah, I fell asleep in probably the first hour. I couldn't believe it.
Millennium stands are pretty comfortable, but they are heavy.
That's good if you're in private
Yeah,
land, though,
they're
right?
heavy.
You bring it back like once for the season, maybe, and you might move it around here and there.
Yeah, we up here. I'm actually sitting up at one of the properties, and I think I got 9 stands surrounding me right now. So we kind of got to take them down this year, rework. Definitely doing our homework this year on this property.
Nice. That's good to go. So you're in PA, 27, been hunting for a while. You like chase whitetail. You like to do some fishing. Tell us a little bit about Ramondo Outdoors. Like what is that? What are you guys doing over there?
So Romano Outdoors, funny story. I met the owner of Romano Outdoors, Paul, through Facebook, actually. He was on, it was about 4 years ago. He was on the Obsession Brotherhood page, and I was looking for a new bow. So messaged him, and I met him in a parking lot about 20 minutes from me. I bought a Fixation 6XP off him, hunted that whole season with it. And then he gave me a call the following year and was like, hey, man, I think you got what it takes. We want to, kind of film and get out into the industry. And I got another teammate, Jacob, great kid up in New York. And, for us, it's all about, family, kind of showing what the aspect of what leads a hunter up to, that successful harvest.
That's cool. That's a good message to put out there. So, like, at what point did you guys have a conversation about your last name and the name of the business? Because it is so similar. I was like tripped up, like, man, I must be spelling something wrong. And yeah, that's it.
I think we had the conversation when I went to his house and, we were sitting by the campfire, drinking a few beers, talking about hunting stories. And he was like, hey, Alex. And I'm like, no one really calls me Alex. And everybody calls me by my last name, Ramondo. And he's like, yeah, that's not going to work, man, because it's Romano Outdoors. And I'm like, I know, man. I've had a lot of people say Ramondo Outdoors, but no, it's Romano. So it's kind of funny meeting somebody, as good as he is, and then, linking up and having, kind of a similar name like that.
It's
very
like
confusing,
destiny
though, most of the time.
Seriously, like you're it's like it's meant to be. You couldn't not be doing what you're doing there. So you guys are putting out content and, some swag, and you have some partnerships. That's great to see. The reasoning behind that is family centric, which is awesome. There's a little bit of that going on here and there, but probably not nearly enough, And as a family man myself, like, it's super important. I have 2 kids. I intend on getting them into hunting if they're willing and able. I'm not going to force them, but I'm certainly going to lean into it if they show an interest. But, I'm not capturing any of that right now.
Yeah, ours, I think the family aspect was, like you just said, it was meant to be when I met Paul. The reason it was meant to be is, Paul's Italian, and my background, which is actually pretty cool, was I was adopted from a small town in Mexico when I was just born. Mother had me, and then my parents were there, adopted me, brought me to, Newtown Square, PA, got my American citizenship when I was, real young. And then, been here ever since, grew up in the middle of the woods on 30 acres. And, like I said, Paul's Italian, and I got adopted into a very hardcore Italian family. So, seeing the family aspect in it was kind of nice, doing the 7 fishes for Christmas Eve and being around family like that. And it was just nice because, you can take what you learned as a kid with family and kind of intertwine it with the outdoors. Kind of makes everything a lot better.
It's pretty cool. We're going to put a bookmark there because as an Italian, we're going to talk about food, and we're going to get to that point at some point. So we're going to come back to that part of it. But that's pretty interesting, man. I didn't know that about you. And, it's cool that it sounds like you end up with a great family. And look at that. I mean, you found a passion for the outdoors being in the middle of a 30-acre plot. Like, that's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, it was, growing up as a kid, my father was a baseball player, and he got me into baseball as a kid. And, I was on 4 teams at a time when I was 15 to 18. All I knew was baseball, but hunting was still in the back of my mind. So kind of, it was nice, as weird as this sounds. When I was a junior, was going to go D1, had scholarships in front of me and all that stuff. I was working out down in Philly for one of the scouts for the Baltimore Orioles. And ironically, my senior year, 3rd game of the year, I broke my ankle in 3 different places. So that was the end of that.
Oh, my God.
So, after breaking my ankle and stuff, I kind of sat back and looked on it. Like, do I really want to pursue this? Do I really, kind of want to go back into it because it took so much, time out of my life. And, grandfather pulled me aside one day and was like, the woods shows you who you are. Because growing up, I was always in the creek with my grandfather. I was in the woods watching him hunt, helping him make, we're talking old tree stands where he would take 2x4s, form them up and, drill them into the trees like that. So he basically led me in the direction to fish, hunt, live off the land. And, He passed away 2 years ago, but I could not thank him enough for, opening my eyes and seeing, how good the outdoors really is for somebody.
Yeah, that's, Greg, who got you into the outdoors?
Dear old dad did, that's for sure.
Yeah, dad for me. So like, it's not too frequently I hear granddad did. That's pretty special. And you're learning some real shit coming from someone like that.
Oh my God,
been doing
man!
it for
You
a
walk
long
in
time.
my grandmother's house. She lives down the hill from me. Literally, like, I'm talking 60 yards down the hill. First thing you walk in, you open the door, giant elk sitting right there. And then you go into the living room. He's got a wolf, bighorn sheep. The funny part is my dad told me, he's one of four. After my grandfather, they had their fourth kid, he literally told my grandmother, all right, you're on your own with this one. I'm going to British Columbia for a week. I'll be back.
I believe it.
And
man.
packed his stuff, went to British Columbia and killed 2 caribou, a wolf, bighorn sheep, and got an elk within a week. I was like, that is insane.
What a badass. Holy shit. So that's who you got to learn from. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's kind of nice learning old school hunting tricks, if you know what I mean, learning from, my grandfather who did it his entire life. So learning those tricks and then coming into the industry, in 2000, we're in 2020 now, and kind of seeing the similarities is nice, but you can almost pair each other up and it kind of binds itself and makes, complete sense. It makes you, play this trick on this trick. And then you sit in a tree stand and you're like, oh my God, this actually worked.
That's cool. Well, that's probably a good segue to talk about like some goals that you have for 2020. I know before we hit the record button, you said you have eyes on your hitless buck for the season. So talk to us about what you're, quote unquote shooting for, so to speak, pun intended, I guess. What are you trying to do this season for 2020? And then you're a private land guy. I know private land's a lot of freaking work. It's no joke. And you have neighboring properties and it sounds like you're abutting some public. So like there's some real challenges there and a lot of work that goes into making that land fortuitous for deer. So like, I'm really curious to hear how you're prepping for that.
So yeah, the buck is actually bedded down in front of me at 120 yards right now. The cool part about this property that I'm sitting on is it is 70 acres. And the tricky part about it is it's got an old horse trail down by the creek, and the horse trail goes about a mile through the woods. And ironically, on the other side of it, I have another property that I call my honey hole because it's where, I'll see some of the biggest bucks. But the hard part about the property is targeting those bucks and figuring out which way they're moving. Like I could be sitting in a tree stand a mile down the road and one of my best friends who I hunt with, Ray and Thomas, they'll be up here and it's kind of hard to judge like which way they're moving. So I guess the goal for this property for us would be, kind of figuring out how these mature bucks are accessing this field. Are they scent checking the entire tree line before they come up? And are they accessing it at the lowest part of the field and kind of playing the wind direction this year? Because it's very, very tricky up here. You're in a giant field surrounded by woods. So, if that buck's behind you, you got to play that wind perfectly or he's going to scent check you before he even gets in that field. And there goes your shot.
Interesting. So insofar as like access, how are you accessing the property? Like, what is that? Do you have like, there's a lot of guys. So private land, I'm asking the question because like on public land, we don't get, we can't bike out there with like, the quiet cats. We can't bring a 4-wheeler, how are you accessing the property? Do you have multiple points of access for different wind scenarios and stand setups, or what does that look like?
So the cool part is, we have a spot that we park down at a lower field. Access points, we'd like the access point to be better. There is an access point on the back side of this property, but it's a neighborhood. So obviously you get out of your truck, someone drops you off and a neighbor sees you with a bow and camo. First thing they're going to do is like, what is this nut job doing? So yeah, we kind of like eliminated that, for now, but the stand placements, they're great. We like to get in an hour before, we think the best time they're going to move in because, the farthest stand, it's probably from where we park, it's probably a 200-yard walk. And you've got to, you got to get there, you got to get set quick, and you got to be quiet because, this property, we only hunt in the afternoon. And the reason we do that is because morning time, all these deer are up in this field and feeding. So you don't want to come up here and you don't want to bump them out. So it's kind of an afternoon, which is nice. So we're trying to pinpoint this year on which is the best way to access each stand without, bumping deer at all or as little deer as possible.
I'm looking at Greg. I'm wondering if he's got any, because you hunt private, or you have. I haven't. I've only hunted like a very small select handful of times, less than that, of property that was private.
And I've had a few places where we had set stands in certain areas, and access was limited, but sometimes it paid to take the roundabout way, even if you've never taken that way before, to access that stand, just because of the way the wind was playing. And a lot of those places I already knew where the deer were bedding, so I knew which way I had to go. So even scouting always pays off, right?
It's one of the benefits of
100%,
private,
yeah.
right? Like you kind of know you're going to be the only one out there, or when other people are going to get there because they're probably telling you like, hey man, I'm going to go this day, and I'm going to sit this stand at these times.
Right.
On public, you have no freaking clue. So like, what your plan might be can go out the total window because it doesn't matter because someone else could totally fudge it up and you have no clue that they've done it.
Sure.
Alex, are you using any like digital tools on your smartphone to like, keep track of this stuff as far as like what's plotted where, what trail cams are where, like what, stands are where, who's sitting in them, etc. Like, are you using any tools or apps?
Yeah, we were using, last year we were using like Onyx. This year, probably honestly going to use your guys' app this year. I'd like to have it, set up where we can pin everything, but, been hunting this property. This is going to be year number 5 for up here. So, like I said, it all depends, honestly. It'd just be nice because it's such a big plot of land to, get everything laid out.
Yeah, like, so our app doesn't hold a candle to Onyx, for the record. Like ours is a one-trick pony. It just shows you other hunters, so like it wouldn't do much good there.
Mm-hmm.
But like Onyx, Basecamp, Hunt Stand, Hunter Site, these are some of the apps that I've heard of and I'm aware of on like the private land side of things, where you can plot. And like, I know Hunter Site does stuff with like trail cams where he'll actually put an algorithm together to help you like record your temperature of the day, like the weather, the buck, and identify some things. It's pretty crazy. But then like Hunt Stand, I don't know, theirs does a shit ton of stuff. There's so many technology tools. I don't mean to take the conversation there, but like there's so many different tools out there that like a lot of private land users, it's aimed towards folks like you where they're using it.
One app that I found pretty useful, just isn't like, if I knew I was going to this spot, I'd check an app called Windy. I have it on my phone.
I love Windy.
So
I have it. I think you told me about it.
Yep. So I probably did tell you about it, but
'cause I'm an idiot.
You can pull it up and you can see like, and it shows the contour of the land and everything. It'll show you what the wind is doing, and it'll actually show like the change in currents and stuff, which is pretty helpful. And it was probably right about 50% of the time. And at the end of the day, you're going in and checking it with milkweed or whatever you like to use for an indicator. Mm-hmm. But you're going in there and dropping milkweed. And if you're already up in the stand, you're dropping milkweed and it's going the wrong way. Well, guess what? Either you're just going to hang tough or you're going to bail out of there and go find another spot.
Well, another one that I like, so like I use so there's like a lot of weather apps, but like there's, Weather Underground, there's Weather Bug. I use an app called Dark Sky. It'll pinpoint your specific location and it'll tell you what the weather is doing for you at that location. I learned about this from our wedding photographer when he was doing our engagement photos back in I was just listening to this. We got married 2015.
His boots are coming
October 15 of 2016. Yeah. So this would have been.
You only had one boot off.
So we would have got married like what? Our engagement photos like 2015 or 16 or something like that. Nonetheless, he's like, "Hey, we're gonna take pictures at this location." I was like, "Bro, it's gonna rain." He's like, "No, it's not gonna rain here." I was like, "What? What are you talking about?" He's like, "No, I use Dark Sky, and it tells you specifically what's happening in that area, not just a holistic like here's your county." I was like, what? And so I've been using that app religiously. It's like a paid app. You got to pay for it, but you pay for it once and you got it forever. And that's been a game changer for me for all sorts of things. Like we're camping this weekend. So we actually just moved our camping location from Kettle Moraine to Door County because there's no storms there.
Nice.
Dark skies. But windy is great too because I never know. Like I'm always the guy that has to stop and think for a second when it's like, north-northeast. I'm like, wait, what does that mean? It's blowing that direction or coming from that direction? I always get confused. So I need to visualize that stuff.
Right.
Anyway, that's my 2 cents. So you're using Onyx. Onyx is great. We're not affiliated with them or anything like that, but like I use it a lot for public land.
We use Onyx, and then last year when Bianca Jane came here and hunted with me during the rut, she actually showed me that app called HuntWise.
HuntWise is great too.
Which was pretty cool, and it was spot on, which was weird because sitting in a tree stand with her, she's looking on her phone and she's like, ouch, they're going to come out of this creek bottom at like 4:30. I'm like, dude, I've been hunting this for like 5 years. 4:35 rolls around and here comes 6 deer out of the creek bottom. I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
That's
so
awesome.
It was pretty cool to see that.
Yeah, they have like a
I had that
predictor
on my
or something, right? Like a deer forecast or something like that. They can actually kind of predict some of the deer behavior.
Yeah, it shows the feeding times. It shows, the best time they're going to move between. It'll say, if there's a full moon, these deer are going to move between 4 p.m. to 6:30 to come out and feed. And then it'll show you like the best feeding times, which was actually pretty cool to see that in person and actually kind of, watch it happen in front of you as the app is, sitting in your hand, seeing that, 5 o'clock, here comes, 10 deer out of the creek bottom.
Yeah, that's great. That's good to know. I totally derailed us, but I'm good at interrupting. I'm good. But I wanted to dig in here a little bit more because, we, say we're the public land hunting podcast, but, I think private land is, there's nothing wrong with private. I'm not like, I don't mean to be against, that's not the point, but I know that there's a lot of tools that those folks use and there's a lot of overlap between the two entities, right? Public and private. Managing a property is hard.
And at the end of the day, we all like to hunt.
My God.
Correct. Yep. We're all out there supporting.
Same team, bro.
That's right. Yeah, that's good stuff. So like what else, if I make sure that I have asked all the good questions here about like what you're doing to prep. Mm-hmm. Like, so it sounds like you have a target buck. That's a topic I'm very interested in right now. Like identifying a target buck and like, how are you going to hunt him? You got eyes on him right now. He's bedded down, 120 yards in front of you. Are you patterning him with trail cams? Like, what are you doing to close in on him?
So to close in on him right now, I'm running, I got 3 spy points I'm running right now. And, in PA down here, you can use mineral. So I'm using XL Mineral, who's, one of our sponsors, makes a great mineral. They started adding in apple scent this year, which is unbelievable. So, it's kind of nice just putting that out, feeding the herd, getting him healthy, and then, watching him, studying, what times he's coming in. And I set up 3 different plots. So they all border this property. So I'm trying to ping down, morning time. What side of the property is he on? Did he come out of the lower bedding area from my house? In the evening, is he hitting that mineral plot? Which way did he come from? Did he work straight through the field or did he, cut through the woods back there that wrap around? So like I said, it's only 3 spy points right now. I'd like to get a couple more to kind of, I'd like to put a stake, honestly, in the middle of this field. That way I can really see, which way he's coming out. But it's just nice to see him. I saw him last year during the rut. He was all rutted up with 4 does, and it was nice to see it because I didn't think, honestly, he was going to make it. I thought he was going to go on to one of the farms behind here and, get shot, but he's bedding right in front of me, and he is definitely bigger. He's got a split right brow tine, and he actually has 2 brow tines on his left side, which is pretty cool to see.
That's cool. Yeah, Velvet Fest, right?
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool to see. I'm sorry. I'm like visualizing your deer right now. I'm really jealous that's what you're looking at. I'm looking at freaking Greg.
Yeah. What? Yeah, I'll send you more pictures. I'll send you pictures when we're done. I got I got another one on this other property of mine, which it stinks because in PA, you cannot hunt from Christmas Day till New Year's. And what do you think shows up on your trail cameras when you're not in the woods for 9 days straight?
Well, I know around here
Some of the biggest deer you'll ever see.
Yeah, I've had some experiences with some pretty nice deer right between Christmas Day and New Year's. So it's usually the tail end of the rut for sure, the younger deer going into estrus, and those big bucks are kind of looking to finish up their year.
When are your season dates over there?
So I live in southern PA. So the cool part about where I live is my WMU is a special regulations WMU. So we have a very, very high deer population here. So we actually open up 2 weeks before the rest of the state of Pennsylvania opens. So it's pretty cool. Like I get 2 weeks before the rest of the state opens. And then it's, I believe this year is September 19th all the way till I'd like to say January 21st this year, but we have that week off, you know, obviously from Christmas to New Year's.
Nice. And what kind of like, and obviously you heard us, you heard me totally, you know, mess Greg up and take him off the tracks like 10 times on Vector Custom Shop. What are you shooting for bow arrows? What do you got going on? What's your setup?
So, last year was crazy. So with Romano Outdoors, we started off with Elite because last year they dropped the Ritual. So, you know, Paul worked something out with Elite. He went ahead and bought 3 Mantis green ones, which they were badass colored. They were great bows. So, you know, we shot them through the year. And then, honestly, you know, it was a fantastic bow. You know, it was great. Everything was good about it, but it just didn't fit me. So, you know, I turned it back into Paul and I was like, I kind of want to go back to Obsession. So I bought a Lawless, shot the Lawless. And ironically, the first time I shot that Lawless in the woods, I shot my buck last year. And then I got rid of the bow after that.
Really?
I was like, okay, one and done.
So now
yeah,
what?
It was pretty weird. But the bow I'm currently shooting, which I don't think I'm ever going to switch, is the Matthews TX5. That bow is an absolute dream to shoot.
That's cool. You know, they're manufactured right here in Wisconsin. So how about that?
Yeah, you guys are lucky. Yeah, it was just, you know, Paul put that bow in my hands and, you know, just the confidence behind it. I think the thing I like about that bow most, honestly, is the grip and the way that it sits, you know, in the palm of your hand. Because I don't know how they did it, but that grip is absolutely fantastic.
Well, and it's important to go shoot different bows, too. You can't be hung up on one particular brand just because they're going to give it to you for nothing.
Yeah, I've not heard a lot of people say that.
You got to go shoot different bows. So, and I did that. And,
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I settled on one bow, and I had a lot of people give me crap about it. Why'd you buy that one for?
That's weird. I had that happen with my truck. Why'd you buy a Ford?
Don't.
Yeah,
you know what? Because I test drove them all, and that's the one I like. God dang it!
That's right. Everybody's different.
You know, in this day and age, everything's made and engineered like really, really well. But it really, at that point, then you're splitting hairs. But you got to split the hairs that matter for you.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's that bow fits me, and you know, sounds nuts. You know, Paul called me up 2 weeks ago. He's like, "Hey, man, I think this year I want to, you know, shoot prime." And I'm like, "You're killing my wallet right now, man." I'm like, I cannot go out and buy a brand new, you know, Prime Black Series. I've always wanted to shoot Prime because I am extremely fascinated in that cam system that they have.
It's a nice bow. I did not shoot the black, but I shot the generation before that, and it was between that and a Matthews that felt the best to me. So they're doing something right with that bow.
Well, Matthews has such a strong brand, but they make such a great product. I mean, they innovated, right? They were one of the industry leaders.
Single cam.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now they have the no
high
cam.
country.
They're the ones with the no cam, right? I'm not mistaken.
Well, they did a no cam bow, but they also, you know, their cam is pretty hot. The new cam that they have is pretty hot.
See, this is where I fade out a little bit. Like I get less caught up in this. For me, like comfortability and silence is what I'm after. Like I'm not after the speed or the pizzazz. Like I don't want the bells. I don't want the whistles. Like I'm the guy that give me the roll down window on a pickup truck. I don't want to break.
Well, and I shot my bow. It was comfortable to shoot. The grip was good, and it was quiet. But I'm also shooting a heavy arrow.
Yep.
And again, speed doesn't matter much to me, but I know at the time it was their flagship bow, and it was pretty quick. Don't know the speed, don't really care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're all fast, right? Like
I just know the sound it makes when it kills.
I see what you did there.
There you go.
I just
had to be a cocky,
is that from a
smart
movie?
guy.
What does he say? I just know the sound it makes when it kills.
It's from Tropic Thunder.
I knew
I know
it.
the sound it makes
I'm
when
the
it
dude dressed as
lies.
the dude playing another dude.
Something like that.
I'm gonna get into character. I don't break it. Anyway, see, we like to have fun here, man. But this is also like two scotch deep now.
Brutal.
But I wasn't the one making the funny stuff. You were.
Hey, I didn't hear anybody laugh.
Contact buzz.
Yeah, you.
Oh man. Well, dude, let's talk about. I mean, if you have any more to add to that, please go ahead, and then I'll switch gears from there.
Yeah, I think gear-wise, kind of left out on. Arrows made the switch this year. Gold Tip came out with those brand new air strikes, which we're going to be shooting this year. And then obviously our broadhead afflictor, which, dear God, I've never shot anything like that. I mean, those things are wicked, man. Everybody's got their own, broadhead, and I've been around the block with them, and to shoot afflictor and then kind of link up with them was awesome. So using them, and like you guys were talking about earlier in the show, how are you, trying to get into the woods with these stands access and stuff, and Scent Assassin, who we're using. I think that's going to help us big time this year, because after talking to their owner, their scent cover, the way that they engineered it was incredible. They're actually extracting the plant matter and putting it into a bottle, so it almost smells literally like dirt. So I'm excited to see how that works this year for us.
That's kind of cool. I love hearing that kind of stuff. We'll have to chat with those guys. But
super cool to see that.
Yeah, I know a lot of the OKS hunters will spray themselves down with dirt like it's out of style. Like they'll douse themselves till the whole bottle's gone. And of course, they spray their armpits and where.
Yeah, no, this is our first year using them. Reach out to Jimmy, the owner, guy's the man, and, kind of explain his product. And, first question is, what makes yours stand out? And I was sold. Second, he said we extract plant matter. I was like, all right, we're going to go ahead and use it.
That's cool.
So, yeah, those are kind of what we're using this year.
That's good to go. Okay, so I bought this spring not that the brand matters, I don't give a shit, but it's just, I did a lot of research. It's what worked for me. I bought a Pit Boss. The reason I bought it, mostly, I had a very, very specific budget I was trying to stay under, and I did that. And I got the Pit Boss because it had the ability to expose the flame, so I could still, I smoked brats last night. I smoked them for 30 minutes, and then I opened them up to the flame and got the nice, singe on there. I've been cooking everything on there: bacon, muffins, brisket, brats, cast iron skillet meals with meatballs. Dude, I've been doing everything on this thing. I've been we did frozen pizzas a Friday night 2 weeks ago because we were too lazy to turn the oven on, and we were sitting outside. So I've opened up my whole world and expanded my cooking ability with this grill. But you, on your Instagram, the amount of food you cook from wild game is impressive. I'm genuinely impressed with what you're doing. Where does that, is that, now we're going back to the Italian, right? Tell me about that. Where does that come from? What are you doing?
So cooking wise, it goes all the way back to the Italian. 7 Fishes is a huge dinner on Christmas Eve for Italian families. So obviously you got your 7 Fishes, and kind of being around that environment. I'm a wooden spoon survivor because I would touch stuff as a kid. My grandmother, would get me with it. So, and then
I was wait, what do you say?
We all are.
I had to think about that for a second. That was good.
Yeah, she after she would get me with that, she'd be like, you know what? For touching that, you're gonna help me make noodles. So, from I think I started actually making noodles and stuff with her was around 7, and then kind of watched my father, come home from work every night, and I'm one of 4. So it's a nice sized family, 3 boys and a girl. So watching him cook, I was like, man, I wish I could do this one day. And after first deer kill that I got when I was 12 with my grandfather, I think the thing that changed the game was biting into a backstrap for the first time.
That's a good one.
It was game over from there. Yeah, because I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, this beats any steak that you'll ever get. So it was awesome. And then I think with the Instagram pictures, I think honestly it's crazy. That honestly started last year was when I started really getting creative in the kitchen, per to say. Kind of taking, obviously Spanish background, trying to incorporate that with wild game. And I think the thing that I like was Steve Ranella, who's my favorite hunter, said a quote that was the coolest thing. He said on one of his shows was, if you're not, cooking wild game and sharing it with friends and family, you're doing that animal an injustice and the sport an injustice. And I was like, that makes complete sense, because for me, when I cook wild game, it's for family, it's for friends. It's about building that connection that, not a lot of people who don't hunt will ever understand the connection between you and, what you're preparing in front of you. So it was just super, super cool to do that.
This season was the first season where I didn't harvest deer, but I went in on a deer with a buddy who harvested some, and his wife's like, you ain't paying for that processing, and we don't got room for it. So me and one of the other buddies in my hunting party split the cost and got the deer processed. And for the first time ever, I mixed the ground meat with pork. My wife, for the first time ever, was like, holy shit, this is good. It got rid of that gamey kind of flavor. I didn't have to over prep it on the ground side. So we made a lot of burgers, spaghetti, chili, all the stuff you'd think of, like the regular shit. And she's like, okay, you need to go kill more deer now. So in 2019, it's the first time I've heard her say that. And there's a funny story about why she doesn't like venison, and it's her fault. She started finally coming around and like loving venison. And I was like, yes, she likes venison. I'm okay to hunt now and whatever. And then I went ice fishing with a buddy of mine, and she was going to surprise us with a roast. And so she didn't ask for my help on anything. So instead of putting the whole roast into the crock pot, she took a roast and sliced that into cubes. And she calls me, I'm out on the ice, and she's like, yeah, so I was going to do this really cool thing for you and like make a pot roast. So when you got off the ice, you'd be nice and warm and have a great venison meal. But I decided to cube it up, and it looks like a murder scene in the kitchen, and it smells like death. And that was like, not good for her. And so to hear her say she likes venison again has been like one of the best moments of my life. So we're finally reeling her back in. How are you? Like, what do you do to prep? Like, man, you're doing so much fun stuff. Like, talk about some of your recipes.
Oh God, prep work. Well, I got to ask you guys from the Instagram, what's your favorite dish on my Instagram that you think, that you like the most out of all of them?
Well, shit, you're putting me on the spot.
So the last one
I'm putting you on the spot.
The last one I saw you post looked pretty darn awesome. It was pretty bare bones, and that's kind of how I like to cook my venison. Like, I just did a pair of inner tenderloins from the last doe I took in 2018. And all I did was just put a light marinade on it and roast it slow on the grill, and then, fire roasted some vegetables with it. We eat pretty lean in my house.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well,
so I think you're kind of doing it venison an injustice by covering it with a bunch of stuff and trying to mix it in with everything. That's just my opinion, but there are certain cuts that are probably better off made in chili and made in spaghetti, the ground meat.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, I try to take as many of my cuts and do something where it's the meat and the vegetable, meat and potatoes. It's kind of separate, so you can appreciate all of it together.
You're a meat and potatoes kind of guy.
No,
Look at me. I'm an aspiring fat kid.
But you never make it. You always manage to stay in this great middle ground shape.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just excelling. So, Alex, I think the last one I had seen, I'm looking at it now. I pulled it up. And speaking of cubing up venison, as my wife would, reminisce about doing that with a full roast, not a steak, you had done some sort of kebabs with some mushrooms, red peppers, and bacon and venison, and it looks very colorful and very delicious.
Oh, that was a good dish. That was a good day. Oh yeah, I know exactly what picture you're talking about. Oh man. So what did I do for that? I actually
You did one
I
with
took
mango
out a
salsa too.
backstrap.
I interrupted you on purpose. I'm sorry. Not sorry. The mango one was the one that caught my attention more so.
Oh, the mango chutney one that was on top of the backstrap that was sliced up. Yeah, that was a good one. That one, that I kind of, I took the backstrap out that day and, had a couple mangoes that my mom was all day was just like, you need to eat these things. I'm like, I'm cooking tonight. They'll get eaten. Don't you worry. So kind of turned that into a salsa, and the Spanish part came out in me. I was like, let's see how a mango would complement a backstrap. Even though it sounds crazy to most people, I like eating my backstraps, obviously plain with garlic and butter. So, cook them up and put that on it. And I was like, this actually makes sense. Because the dish that I grew up as a kid eating with my grandfather was he would take blueberries and actually turn them into a puree, and he would put them all over his backstraps. I'm like, seriously? Like, that doesn't look good. I was a kid at the time. And the first time I bit into that, I was like, oh my God, like blueberries actually do complement backstraps. So for me with, cooking and putting it on Instagram, it's just showing people that, you can have fun. And, especially with wild game, it's just, there's nothing better than harvesting, obviously, your own meat.
It extends the life of the hunt. I think like it extends the life of the hunt. Like
it adds to the memory, really. Is
yeah,
what it does.
You're making it more worth it. You're getting more juice out of the orange, so to speak. Like it's pretty exciting,
Well, that's kind of like, we came up with the new saying this year, which I'm sending both you the shirts, after the show. The new saying is, behind every arrow is a new memory. So we kind of, go by that, Romano Outdoors. So when it comes to, the hunt and the harvest and getting that deer out of the woods and then getting it to the butcher, I mean, the hunt's over, but the memory's still there. Because every time a hunter opens his freezer, you crack a smile. Because you're like, am I going to go with the tenderloins today, or am I going to go with the backstrap?
Instead of cracking a beer, crack a smile. How about that? That's pretty good. That's beautiful, man.
What's that?
Instead of cracking a beer, crack a smile. Reach for the venison.
Yeah, crack a smile, man. Every time I open that freezer and, know that it's crazy because my mother doesn't eat it. And growing up around me, with my father, it's kind of just like, I hunt and then, some days I'll come in from work early and I'll catch my dad in the freezer and he'll have a pot roast under his arm and a backstrap in the hand. I'm like, what do you think you're doing, sir? I worked hard for that, but it's just nice to provide for him. And, he appreciates it a lot because, he knows that the woods is, obviously what I like to say is it's therapy for me. It's nice to go out and, release that soul and kind of just step away from reality for the 3 to 4 hours that you're in the woods. Or if you do an all-day sit, which those are brutal after a while. But, hey, they pay off in the end, man.
Yep. I spent most of the weekend on a kayak on the Menominee River up in the UP, and
that's awesome.
It's so good, dude, for the soul. You need to have that time. Like you talk about hunting as therapy. I think I have an episode in this podcast bank somewhere called Hunting as Therapy. Like I believe that it's just good to disconnect and reconnect with nature. If you don't get anything, man, just sitting there in silence, not on your phone, and plugging into the wildlife and seeing things come to life we need that as human beings.
Everybody needs it. And, I didn't mean to cut you off or anything, but it's just
no, thank you.
To put this in a little nutshell for you, man. I explained to my neighbor who doesn't hunt, I'm like, hey, you wake up in the morning, you have your coffee, you listen to the birds. The way I like to explain it is, you get into the woods and you get to watch nature wake up. So you get in the morning, you watch everything wake up, and then, I come back in the afternoon, you watch the night shift is what I call it. And the coolest thing I actually saw last year happen was I was in a tree stand, and do you guys know what a Cooper hawk is?
Yep.
All right, so I was sitting in the tree stand, and there were a ton of chipmunks, obviously, and squirrels, hunters, we hate them. So I'm watching these guys play, and a Cooper hawk flies in. And he sits 10 yards in front of me, and he's sitting in the tree, and everything goes quiet, right? All the squirrels ran up, all the chipmunks hid. So after they hid, the Cooper hawk actually got on the ground, stood there for about 10 seconds, and out of nowhere, he started hopping around. And he was hop, 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 hop. He was mimicking a chipmunk on the ground. And about 10 seconds later, all the squirrels came out. He got himself a squirrel and flew off. I'm like, that's one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
I've never
So
seen
it's
that.
like, you know, in the woods, yeah, it was amazing, man. But in the woods, you see stuff that most people will never experience.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. How fun is it to see like an exotic animal, even if it's like a bear or a coyote or like a bobcat? You see these things in the flash of a pan, and it's like, holy shit. It's so cool. You just don't see that stuff, you know. You see it on Nat Geo, but that doesn't count, you know.
No, it
That'll be
doesn't.
fake.
I think the coolest things is the great horned owls here. Seeing those things is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've got our share of them around here.
Greg's got a good owl call.
Yeah, we've got.
I was gonna see if you're gonna do it.
No. Yeah, we've got quite a few. In fact, I've got barred owls in my backyard and in my neighborhood because we got so many big oak trees.
We got a couple around here.
Yeah.
Logan hears them at night, my daughter, and she's like, "Who cooks for you?" I'm like, "That's right. That's what they say."
That's what they say.
There you go.
Why don't you share with us your most memorable hunt? We'll wind down here, bring the plane in for a landing. I'd love to hear what your most memorable hunt is.
Oh, man, the most memorable hunt. I know you asked me before we went live, and I finally got it down. It was my turkey hunt this year. I killed my first bird, and I was super, super psyched about it. And the way that it panned out was just, it was incredible. So one of my good friends, Howie, invited me down to his place in Jersey. So, you know, I bought the license, and, you know, I'm going down to Jersey. And, you know, we're hunting for 3 weeks straight. We saw birds, and, you know, we had a couple shots at some beautiful toms, but it was just to the point where it's like I couldn't draw that bow because their eyesight, they would have pinched us. So last day of the season comes around, and it's a Saturday, and Howie's like, yo, we're going out. And I'm like, yeah, we're going out, man. I'll be there at 4:30 in the morning. I roll up to his house, you know, having our coffee, talking about the game plan, and we went down to a creek. And, you know, Howie was scouting for like 6 weeks straight on these birds. Finally got him down to a T. So we're sitting in the blind, and it's 5:30 in the morning. And I'm not an avid turkey hunter like most people. And out of nowhere, straight ahead over this hill, 5:30 in the morning, like sun's not even up, comes this giant tom. I mean, he is running at full speed. He runs towards the blind and then cuts off at 30 yards. I'm like, why is he out of the roost so early? Like, we thought something scared him out of the roost. So he runs by. And then about, I'd like to say an hour goes by. We heard another. We were working him for about 2 hours. Get him to about 100 yards, and he goes silent. So I'm like, oh, come on, man. So 8:30, I look at my watch. You know, ironically, took a picture of my bow set up, was going to put it on my Instagram story. And all of a sudden, you know, Howie's like, yo, we got to make a move, man. We got to go up to that peach field behind us. I know they're up there feeding. I'm like, man, we got to wait till 9 o'clock. I mean, these birds, I know that they're here. About 10 minutes goes by. He's packing his bag, getting ready. And I, like, smacked his arm hard as hell. And I'm like, there he is. He's like, what? I can't see him. There was a tom standing at the top of the hill at 60 yards. And he's just looking around, doing his thing, starts working his way in. I'm like, is this really going to happen on the last day? This tom worked his way into 10 yards. I had him at full draw when he got to 20 because he pinched right behind a tree so I could finally get the full draw. And I let that arrow fly. It flapped. He did that typical flop, and he was down. And it was probably the most memorable for me because, you know, other than a mature whitetail buck, putting in time for turkeys, man, that was a lot of time, and it was a lot of fun. So, and I always told my grandfather too, he was the one animal that, you know, he never got to harvest when he was living. So I always told him, man, I'm like, you know, regardless if you're here or not, I'll make a promise to you. I will, you know, get a bird for you. So it was more of special that, you know, my good friend Howie like that put that hunt together and I could, you know, harvest my first bird, but it was more for a harvest so that, I believe that my grandfather, his soul lives in me every time I go into the woods and every time I step foot on a stream. So it was just nice to finally get it done, and I knew he was smiling, so it was just awesome, man.
Dude, that's really special. That's awesome. I've yet to go turkey hunting.
Yeah, it was.
You better get your crap together for next year.
My crap will be together.
Yeah, I'm addicted.
That's great. I mean, you called him from like 100 yards. And then you drew him in at 20 and all the way up to 10, you said?
We didn't call. The cool part about it was we had a Tom behind us. I mean, he was 100 yards in pine trees, and he went silent, and the entire woods was silent. Like the bird that I shot, he was non-vocal. He came over this hill, and he wasn't strutting. He wasn't making any noise. It was just ironic that this bird shows up out of nowhere. I mean, he walked in non-vocal, and I'm like, oh my God, he's right there. So it was just cool to see that.
That is cool, man. Someone just commented, you need to go turkey hunting. I know, I do. I know. It'll happen. I'll buy the license next year. You know what's funny is I did buy a turkey license for gun deer, thinking I'd see, because you know what's happened every year I've been deer hunting is I've seen turkey. So I'm like, fuck it, I'm going to buy a turkey license. The year I buy the turkey license, I see no turkey. I mean, I know that's not an actual turkey hunt, but I just thought it'd be cool. Like, well, if I see one, at least I can shoot something. Didn't happen. Classic. I bet you if I go turkey hunting, I see deer, no turkey.
That has happened.
There's one year when I was deer hunting, and I was hunting from the ground on a public piece, and I finally got eyes on. It was a doe. It was no big deal, but I was pretty jacked about it. And a flock of turkeys come, or I don't know what you call a flock of turkeys, raptors, come out of a different spot, and they end up spooking the deer, and the deer jumped and then spooked the turkey. They all ran off. I was like, well, what the heck just happened? You bunch of idiots. You just scared all of each other, and now I have no shot at anything. Damn animals. But that's a good story, man. Thanks for sharing that with us. Like, we'll wrap up. No calls in. We'll keep the lines open for a few minutes. If anyone wants to call, ask questions, or comment, or say whatever they want to say, we'll take them. But otherwise, Alex, we're waiting to see if anyone will call in or not. Why don't you let us know how people can get in touch? How can they follow along? Like, where should they go to follow Romano Outdoors?
So right now, the Romano Outdoor page is currently down on Instagram because Paul just moved to Virginia. So he's we're not rebranding in a way. He kind of just wants to work on it and take time because a move like that with twins and the wife, he's spending time with the family. You can follow my page, give me a follow on Instagram. And, I interact with everybody. It's nice. If you got questions or, any stuff like that, I'm always there to, answer them. It's just nice, interacting with people on that. And, obviously like your guys, you guys yourself, meeting on Instagram, and, here we are doing a podcast. It's just amazing how the hunting industry brings everybody together as one.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful in that sense. And social media has been a great way to connect folks and bring more voices to the space. So we appreciate you sharing your stories with us and kind of like your why and how you're doing stuff. You bring a lot of good value to the show. We'd love to have you back on at some point, and make sure you go into the Facebook comments and hit anybody up there that was like, asking questions or commenting. We'd probably love to hear from you. So a few folks said that they love you. So I assume you had a couple people that are in your circles following along. Kevin Murphy said Alex is the best. Always open to help a greenhorn figure stuff out. Hunter Sweater said his grandpa got him into the outdoors, so he related with you there. Like, it's cool to see that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it was nice. With Kevin, really quick was I met him on a stream 2 years ago, and he always talked about how he wanted to get into the outdoor industry. And I was like, you know what, man, here's my number. Hit me up. Big time football player in college, getting ready, hopefully to get drafted. But, he's a good kid, man. His passion for the outdoors is great. And it's nice to have here. I got my good friend, Thomas and his son. I met them at one of my ex's house. So it was pretty nice. And he's been around for 5 years, showing people the woods in general is nice because they appreciate it. And, I'm the type of person where I'll bring you onto my farm and have fun, just know that you're going to work for it. Same thing like, really quick, Bianca came here flew in from Georgia. She's never experienced a rut. And when she got here, she's like, I can't believe how many deer I saw. I'm like, yeah, like the rut is powerful, and that girl worked for it. I mean, she stalked a deer 10 yards. I've never seen anything like it, man. It was just incredible to see everybody and how they adjust to the woods and, what fits them and what makes them comfortable. So that's kind of what my thing is. The whole family aspect is, whoever I can get out and, help teach the outdoors. I'm not a pro or anything, but whatever I learned from my grandfather, it's just nice to, pass it on to people.
That's a good mantra, man. That's how it should be. That's cool.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks for spending time with us and taking time out of your busy schedule to be on the show. Everybody, that concludes the live broadcast. So, like we say every Tuesday night, we'll get this thing produced for podcast land later this evening. Alex, hang out with us for a minute here, but we're going to end the live broadcast. Everybody have a great night. And
thanks for listening.
Yeah.